In her new book, Supremacy, Parmy Olson goes behind the scenes of the AI industry's 2-year rollercoaster ride, which began in November 2022 with the launch of ChatGPT. She focuses on the evolution of two founders, Sam Altman of OpenAI and Demis Hassabis of Google DeepMind, and chronicles their journeys from the early startup days, where both had lofty goals of solving science and providing economic abundance, to their more corporate-focused present-day predicaments, where their fortunes are closely tied to the business realities of big tech. While I was listening to Parmy speak to her colleague Tim O'Brien at the book launch, I couldn't help but feel there was something missing from their conversation, given the book's title. You see, a lot of times the media focuses on the people at the helm of large tech companies, closely following their decisions, feuds, and, more recently, late-night social media posts. And I get why. These stories generate traffic and, to some extent, are of public interest. But sometimes, by over-focusing on the ego trips, we can miss the bigger picture and second-order effects. Let's start with language supremacy, for example. One of the consequences of concentrating AI compute infrastructure in the US and China has been the creation of a visible gap between how well language models perform in English and Chinese compared to other languages. As these two nations invest heavily in AI research and infrastructure, their dominant languages benefit from more extensive training data and computational power. A few years ago, we had a term for this phenomenon: low-resource languages. If you asked an AI researcher for examples of such low-resource languages, they'd immediately point you to countries or communities with tens or hundreds of thousands of active speakers, such as Amharic, Basque, Galician, Guarani, or Hognorsk. But now, if the current trend continues, languages with tens or hundreds of millions of speakers such as Hindi, Arabic, or Spanish are at risk of becoming low-resource too. The cultural impact of this trend could be profound. As AI becomes increasingly integrated into daily life, speakers of less resourced languages may find themselves at a disadvantage in accessing AI tools and services. This could lead to a form of linguistic hegemony where English and Chinese gain even greater regional or global influence. Additionally, the AI systems trained primarily on these languages may inadvertently encode and amplify cultural biases specific to China and the United States, potentially marginalizing other worldviews and cultural perspectives. Secondly, national supremacy. I was born and raised in Romania. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, my country built an IT industry from scratch, with dozens of successful local tech companies that powered the economy at a time where other industries were struggling. Romania was not alone. Poland, Hungary, Estonia, India, Israel, or Sweden are all small countries that punched above their weight in the global tech industry. However, unlike the previous technological wave, which was driven by the internet and where having access to a computer connected to the web meant you could compete for work with anyone around the world, staying ahead in AI will be heavily influenced by access to cloud computing, which can be prohibitively expensive and is presently concentrated in the hands of a few tech companies that can afford to train foundational models. These startup countries will soon find themselves in a regional compute deserts. Their most talented engineers and researchers will resettle in regions with more developed AI infrastructure, such as the United States, Canada, China, or the Middle East. Eventually, the once thriving tech ecosystems in Eastern Europe or the Global South will struggle to compete and will become obsolete, just like their manufacturing or automotive industries did in the 1970s and 1980s. Thanks for watching. This is an AI-generated video readout of this week's Computer Speak newsletter. To keep up to date with the latest news in AI and other emerging technologies, subscribe to Computer Speak on Substack.